Welcome to the Bulletproof Screenplay Podcast, episode number 11. All writing is a discipline, but screenwriting is a drill sergeant. Robert McKee.
Broadcasting from a dark, windowless room in Hollywood, when we really should be working on that next draft. It's the Bulletproof Screenplay Podcast, showing you the craft and business of screenwriting while teaching you how to make your screenplay bulletproof. And here's your host, Alex Ferrari.
Welcome to the Bulletproof Screenplay Podcast. I am your humble host, Alex Ferrari. Now, today's show is sponsored by Bulletproof Script Coverage. Now, unlike other script coverage services, Bulletproof Script Coverage actually focuses on the kind of project you are and the goals of the project you are. So we actually break it down by three categories: micro budget, indie film market, and studio film. There's no reason to get coverage from a reader that's used to reading tentpole movies when your movie is going to be done for $100,000. And we wanted to focus on that at Bulletproof Script Coverage. Our readers have worked with Marvel Studios, CAA, WME, NBC, HBO, Disney, Scott Free, Warner Brothers, The Blacklist, and many, many more. So if you need your screenplay or TV script covered by professional readers, head on over to covermyscreenplay.com. Now, today, this is another Sundance Special Edition episode. We have today David Boxerbaum. He is a superstar literary agent over at Paradigm, and he has been known to sell many, many spec scripts in Hollywood in the millions of dollars, at least six-figure to seven-figure sales, and he's known for doing that for quite some time. He's built a hell of a reputation for himself, and I had an opportunity to sit down with him and my co-host Sebastian Tordas to discuss the spec script market, how to approach an agent of his caliber, how to get representation, what they're looking for, and how to get it out into the world, and how do you work, how a screenwriter or filmmaker should work with an agent, and what that process is. So it's a lot of knowledge bombs tossed out in this episode, guys. So enjoy my conversation with David Boxerbaum.
All right. Well, David is an agent. You're a talent agent and a literary agent now. Do you do both?
More literary agent than talent agent. I mean, I do have clients that are actors and actresses that actually write as well, but more literary than talent.
Okay.
Got it.
And did you always want to be an agent?
Man, I don't know if anybody actually ever wants to be an agent. That's a
Like when you were a kid,
yeah,
like, I want to be like,
I want to
have
go.
a picture of Ari up on the wall.
Yeah, exactly. I want to be Ari Gold one day. No, I don't think I actually knew I wanted to be an agent. It all started. I was one of those kids, like most kids who love film. Went to my first movie and was like, that looks amazing. I want to do that someday.
Was there a movie that did it?
Well, listen, I was in love with Frank Capra, so my dad showed me It's a Wonderful Life early on, and I just became a huge Frank Capra fan. And as it went on, anything Amblin-wise, E.T. in that world.
The whole
and
80s.
The whole 80s, world that I grew up in was like unbelievable. Back to the Future and all that. So I became in love with movies, and I decided I want to go to film school. At this point, I had no clue what an agent does, no clue what an agent what deals are, what selling scripts, all that stuff. Went to film school. And
Wait, hold on. I'll go too fast. Where did you go to film school?
Went to NYU Film School.
Did you apply anywhere else, or was NYU the place you wanted to go?
So, growing up in California, I grew up in San Francisco.
Okay. Yeah.
Grew up in California.
So you should be wanting to go to USC.
Yeah, you would think like USC, UCLA, or something like that.
I mean,
but I was the kid that wanted to leave home and like go far away, right?
You did
even though Hollywood was here.
Right.
I know. By the way, in hindsight, you look back and you go, that's where the hub of it all is, right?
Of course, right.
But I wanted to leave home and I wanted to go to the East Coast and experience that and see what it was like to be on the East Coast and be a part of that. So I went to NYU Film School and truly loved it. I mean, I was in love with what was all about, making movies and screenwriting and all of that.
Wait, I just have to know. Did you really love it? Because a lot of people who go to film school actually don't like film school.
I loved film school.
There.
I loved film school.
Loved it.
Yeah.
Okay.
I truly, Tish was great. But Tish was very much more geared towards what like Sundance is, a more independent, more artist friendly.
What year did you go?
We forgot to say we're actually here at Sundance.
Yes, we
should say that.
I think everybody will know by the end of the
Let's just say I went a long time ago.
Okay. No, just like the filmmakers that were around. Was it the Spike Lee time? Was it?
It was Spike Lee was teaching there.
Okay, so
did you have a class from Spike Lee?
Did not have a class with Spike Lee.
Yeah, because you were an undergrad. They only shoved the
Martin Brest was teaching there.
Okay.
So guys like that. But it was I didn't have a class with Spike Lee.
Got it.
But we were still cutting movies too, by the way. We're still cutting
on
film.
flatbeds, of course.
Flatbeds. Yeah,
Of course.
So,
and moviolas.
yeah, moviolas, yeah, all of that. So I graduate film school, and now I'm going to come back to California because I can't afford to live in New York.
What did you want to be when you were in film school?
So in film school, I wanted to be a director. That was I wanted to be a filmmaker. Not much as a writer, so director. That's where I really wanted to focus my attention and I felt like I had the creative love and passion for.
So when did you graduate?
So I graduated in 98.
Got it. Okay.
So I graduated in 98. So came out to LA and knew no one. I mean, only thing about NYU is it didn't really prepare me for what LA was about to, Hollywood was about to be about, right? They didn't really tell you. Right? Yeah, because it's very, like I said, it's very Sundance, indie based. So you don't really get to the UCLA, USC, which is like, hey, you just, get in your car and drive down to Beverly Hills and get a job at one of the mailrooms or whatever it is, or one of those jobs in the production offices. I had no clue. So I came out here and was just sending out resumes, got like some odd end jobs just to make ends meet. And, I got a call from Jerry Bruckheimer Films, and
good man to know.
Yeah, good man to know. I didn't know him personally, but at the time, but good man. I got a good call from one of the many assistants there. Went in, interviewed, and I love this story. This is the only time that I feel NYU helped me. When I was there, I go in an interview, and listen, there was a laundry list of people interviewing for this job. It was to be like Jerry's, I don't know, 8th or 9th assistant. So, literally walk the dog, fix a script library. Yeah, the guy has 9 assistants.
8, 9 assistants.
At the time. I mean, I don't know, maybe it's 40 now. But at the time, it was like 8 or 9 assistants.
And you were like, number 9.
Yeah, I was like, come on.
Number 9.
Let me walk that dog. But it was obviously you're working for Jerry. And this was a time during when Con Air was in post.
Yeah.
Con Air was coming out. Enemy of the State was in pre, and the best was Armageddon was in production. So Michael Bay was rolling around the building all day.
Yeah.
I interviewed, and I had honestly no qualifications for the job. As much as you have to have qualifications to walk a dog or whatever it is. Let me tell you,
it is LA after all.
It is LA.
So
they do background checks on dog walking.
But the woman who interviewed me went to NYU. And I'm telling you, that's where that connection helped. And I told that story to the NYU kids a couple of months ago, and it was funny. I got a big laugh at the class because you never know where the NYU connection will help, or film school,
or USC,
or anything. Any film school will help. So did that. Was there for about 7-8 months. It was an amazing experience to see that, but I wasn't really integrated that much. And
what did you actually do? So you're doing more like PA type stuff for the office.
Totally PA stuff. Running around getting lunch, whatever. But answering phones occasionally, and I'd answer the phone a couple times, and Jerry would call, and you put it through the number 4 system, number 3, number 2, number 1.
Right.
So I did that kind of stuff, and then I didn't really know what I wanted to be still in the business. I didn't understand. I knew now, okay, there was production, there was producers, and there was all executives and all that, but I didn't quite understand what I wanted to be. I knew coming out of film school, I didn't want to be the kid that ran around town broke with a film scanner in my hand. There's nothing wrong with that, and it's an amazing creative passion if you have that and you want to do that, and it's a great journey. But for me, I wanted to kind of learn the business. I just still didn't know where to be in the business. So while I was there, someone's like, if you really want to learn it, you should go to work in an agency. That's where the hub of it all is. That's where you learn everything. So I went from there and got a job at the William Morris mailroom.
Wait, how did you end up getting a job at William Morris mailroom?
I applied. I came in. I went for an interview.
Did you have like the UTA job list?
Yeah. Someone's like, here's what you do. Apply to all of them. I think honestly, all of them turned me down, minus William Morris.
Got it. Perfect.
So not a bad place to take me. If I was 1 for 4, at least I was 1 for 4 with one of the best places, right?
Yes.
Right.
So I went there, and this was during an old regime that has now obviously since changed many times. But and I got a job there working for a guy named Lee Rosenberg, who was one of these old school types who had created an agency called Triad, had merged it with William Morris, and was just really legendary agent. And the good thing about it, good or bad, depending on how you look at it, was he was on his way out. It was his last year, in theory, and he was going to retire. So he was definitely in a place of his life that he was ready to mentor somebody. So I was that last person to be mentored by him.
What kind of clients did he have? Do you remember?
He had some of the greatest TV,
TV
creators.
Agent.
Yeah, big TV agent of our time. So had made a lot of money in the course of his career putting TV packages on the air. So that was my first introduction to Agentine. I was there for a year, and unfortunately he did retire. And then I was kind of in an odd place there.
Wait a minute. I always think we're going a little bit too fast. Can you tell us what it was like working at William Morris at that time? Like literally
Sure.
like for people who get that first assistant job, or do you have any advice?
Sure. It was, honestly, it was a really, from what I remember, it was a really fantastic time. The place was definitely going through a change. There was a regime change, and that's kind of what also helped push my unfortunate boss out of the building. I was on the first floor there, and that's where all the real heavyweights were, on the first floor. To be around them and see the kind of success they had built as a young 22, 23-year-old kid out of college.
Hours crazy?
Hours were nuts. Yeah, you're working, all day. You're doing odds and end jobs as an assistant that, normally you wouldn't think you'd ever want to do. And but you're literally trying to learn as much as you can.
But you lasted a year. I mean, because I worked at ICM. And I was there
literally what everybody said was true. The hub of information, it was all there. And I felt like, when you walk into an agency, you feel like you've been immersed in the action. You're in it, right? There's points in the business.
Okay, so then why'd you leave?
Well, I left because my boss retired, and I was in an odd place. Like I was in no man's land, and I got it. It was really interesting. I got a call. Whether to this day, I still don't know why they called me. It was an odd call. I got a call from two agents at Endeavor, and said, "Hey, I hear your boss retired." It was Ari Greenberg and Richard Weitz. Ari needed a good assistant, best TV agent in town, and he needed someone to come work for him. So he said, "Would you come work for me?" I was like, "Great." And what's Endeavor? Basically, I didn't really know what it was. A start. It was Endeavor. Yeah, it was like crazy. So I spent about 2.5 years to a place that was now starting up and really expanding and finding itself and really becoming a kind of legendary agents of our time, partners, owners of agencies, were all young and coming up in the business, and was really great to see that and see the rise of that and kind of learn and soak it all in.
There's actually, you go.
So one question I've always had about agencies, I know there's a lot of politics.
Sure.
How is it like? Is it basically like what they see on Entourage? Your boss is gone, so now you're like, what's the politics?
Sure, of course. I mean, there's always politics in any surrounding, in business surrounding, especially in agenting, because it's interesting. It's only the few survive, right? To get to the point where you be an agent, right? Sure. And you put so many years into it, and you could put 3, 4, 5 years being an assistant, and then realize one day that you're not going to make it, and you spend all that time making little to no money, busting and not make it. So is there politics? Yeah, because you're trying to become the guy that gets noticed, the guy or girl that gets noticed, the one that bests the other, and the one that gets the bump to the next level.
The deal.
So
is there any secret sauce to that, or just?
Honestly, what I always tell, and this is not jumping ahead, but I always tell my assistants now is that blinders on and focus. Like this is a time. If you want this, you have to focus and just go for it. And literally, you can't let any distraction get in your way. So is there a secret sauce? It's the distractions of the outside world, the social scenes, the things that will take you away from being there. Isn't the social scene
part of it? I mean, isn't that important?
Sure. But I mean, are you in there in the morning, you're the last one to leave? Right. Are you reading more than another person? Are you on the weekend doing more than you have to do to impress your boss? Script before you go to bed up at 6 o'clock in the morning, So it's just, are you going the extra effort to do?
Notes or comments on that?
Because that could, that's a hell. What you just said is a hell of a lot.
I burned out actually at one point. I mean, it happens.
Absolutely. I think you hit a wall. I think everybody's career, and for me, speaking for myself only here, if you're passionate and love what you do, and agenting to me, we hear is 99.9%. No, right. Not good enough, didn't like it, didn't do well at the box office. No. That one, yes, when you get it, it makes everything else feel like it never happened, never existed. And that one yes is what gets you to the next day. And I think for me, the passion of that yes, a passion of successfully, my family, trying to build a career, all of that is so much part of it as well. But and purely about agenting, that get that yes is such a gratifying part of the business and part of the job that you live for it.
See, a lot of people don't know all the time.
In front line, on front of your clients.
It's hard.
But think about also that you shield the client from. People always say, "Oh, you're like a therapist. Deal with all the clients' issues, their own personal issues, as long as they're career issues." There's some truth to that, of course, but you think about to answer your questions, there burnout? Sure, because you're dealing with so much negativity on a daily basis. but the positive things that come from agenting, the wonderful experience of getting a yes and being on sets, it so much offsets the other stuff that's all worth it to me.
So so let's say you obviously rep more literary now, right?
Sure.
And you're known for selling a lot of high-end spec scripts.
I've had some success.
You've had some success selling spec scripts. So what would you suggest? Well, first of all, what do you do with a client when they first come? You've just signed a new guy.
Sure.
Or a new guy or girl, and they've got a spec script that you like. What's the next step?
How was working for Ari? Because we're definitely going to get to what you just asked, but I want to hear.
You're in a part of secret society.
Yes.
I'll show you a secret handshake later.
Thank you. Appreciate that.
So what was?
Not at all.
He's the perfect man. I've never.
Guys, I am as confident.
He's tremendous.
I'm writing a book, but he doesn't know yet. Okay.
Honestly, I'm as confident in my career as I've ever been, and I'm confident in who I am, and I'd be the first one to admit if I thought anybody did things.
How long
the
did you work
wrong
for
him? Not a short time.
Sure, it was brief. Okay, so go on. You're at Endeavor. So why the hell would you leave Endeavor if you're working for Ari and Ari?
Well, it's a bit truly unbelievable to watch the way he, the man is truly the best of the best at what he does. So it's very
why
it's a drive. I mean that talk about burnout. I mean you think everything he does is a burnout, but the drive to want more and succeed, and all the hurdles that one may face along the way to get over them.
All right, enough about Ari.
Back to me.
Back to you, sir. Back to you.
Me. So then I took a little detour. So
why?
At Endeavor, why is a good question. So
because you were at the top, you were working for Ari and Ari, like you were there.
Didn't know where my place was in the company. Didn't really have an understanding of it.
Yes, because you were young and dumb. You didn't realize how good you had it.
Now I'm old and dumb.
Did you realize not have it?
I think I had it good. I don't think it's like if I had the Christmas Carol and I can go back and look at that part of my life, right?
Yes.
Sure, I would tell young Boxer Bomb that I had it really good in that just to focus and stay, and things are different. Things have worked out unbelievably amazing in my career, and I always think the path I took led me to meet my wife and have kids and beautiful family, all of that, right?
Yes.
So all of that path was great for all that. Having said that, I think there was an element of naivete in the way I went about it.
It just happens.
That's you.
Sure, absolutely.
Older than you that can say to you,
absolutely. But I actually don't regret that. What I did was I took a small detour from agenting and went into the production executive ranks.
Yes.
And I worked for a company called RKO Pictures, which has been around for years many years, and had this great library of titles.
Sure.
Some they owned, some they didn't. The hurdles you face that every day. But and I spent a year trying to put title remakes together and all of that, and it was the everyday excitement, the rush, the things are moving, right?
It's true. It's a big.
It's such a slick. It's
very different.
Development.
Development in general.
Just like years.
And I lived it. And
years of that.
Looking back, it's amazing because we had this really wonderful library of great titles that now is probably even more enticing to many, many filmmakers. But then at the time, you had a lot of great filmmakers who wanted to be a part of RKO because they grew up and loved these old titles. So we had some fantastic opportunities to meet people and kind of become, contacts and friends and work with people. But again, I quickly learned after a year that I wasn't for me, and I went back into agenting, but kind of had to start kind of take a step back, but I had to kind of start a different size. And it was a great 4 years.
When did you get made agent? Was it at Metro?
It was Metropolitan. Yeah.
So how did that happen?
I went right from assistant there. I went right from executive to agent.
So they made you an agent right away.
They knew me back in the days. They knew me from being on RKO and whatever, and they knew I had a background to be an assistant at other places. And they needed a young covering agent they could pay no money to and just come in and hustle. And guys,
this is when I met you first. I remember your office there. I like that office.
Guys, let me tell you, when I tell you I had to come in and I had nothing in my corner, nothing in my corner, but pure drive and a little naivete because it was all an uphill battle, and it was a really amazing experience because at that point nothing was given. We were a small little agency, not a huge literary department, and we faced hurdles trying to compete with the big boys, right? I'd come to Sundance, this is, 16, 17 years ago, and try to sign directors and all of that and writers. And no one ever heard of Metropolitan. We were a small little place. And there was so many great agents that came out of there and have blossomed to really fantastic careers. But it was a small little place. And so after 4 years.
First spec sale.
First, I don't.
Too far along.
Yeah, guys, I should have probably prepared for that. I just don't remember.
Oh, don't worry about it. Okay.
There's been so many. No,
There's been so
It's true. I'll just blame my old age and there's been so many. I'm kidding. But
you were selling scripts there and stuff. I mean, it was.
I was doing a lot. I was doing TV and features. So I was mostly trained in TV at that point. So
Right.
I went in there as a TV agent, but I quickly kind of started to also learn the feature business. So I was doing both. And by the way, to this day, that has been a huge asset in my career is that I knew both fields. I do much more feature film now. Having both those assets in my repertoire has done so many great things for my career because it gives clients kind of the comfortability that they can come to me and know that I have the knowledge and wherewithal. I mean, I hope I do. Well, I believe I do to understand.
Love to know what's the inside look at like selling a spec. Like you've got a client,
Sure.
You've got a script that you believe in.
Well, how did they find the client
Like-
in the first place? But
Sure.
I mean, we could go back to like, okay, how do you even get? How does that script get to you?
Sure. I mean, listen, I always say, and there's so many different ways a great script can get in my hands, but I always say great material rises to the top. It's like cream, it just somehow finds its way to the top. And it can be in so many various ways from, relationships to, friends who give it to you contests you read to other agencies they leave from, and you try not to be that guy that poaches from other agencies, but sometimes circumstances arise that stuff like that does happen. So it's different ways it comes to
It
you.
gets you.
But selling a spec, which I'm very proud to say I've had some success in, is have kind of found a formula that works and found a formula that has allowed me to have the accessibility to PR itself. And I just feel like, for me personally, I trust my tastes and trust my what I'm reading. If I love the project itself, and I feel like and I've always told this anybody I speak to, whether it be at film schools or conferences, whatever, that all agents have in this town, I think, is taste and their respect, right? And I think respect and integrity, you can add this too. Once you lose one of them, you're in trouble. Once you lose both, you're done. And for me, I've always prided myself on keeping those intact the best way possible. And I prided myself on just having great taste. And there's no magic to that. It's the old saying, you know it when you see it, you know it when you read it. It's so true. I just know what I respond to and I love. And what I've responded to and I loved and taken out to the marketplace has just had a lot of success.
Well, what's your process of actually doing the spec?
Yeah, like
how do you set it up?
Like with your client, like you have a
Sure.
new client, you have a spec that you believe in. What's the next step?
Sure. So let's use a recent example. Okay. So as recent as last weekend. Drama, but not really when you looked at what the story was about. Historical drama. And it was about Otto Frank, Anne Frank's father, who in his journey to, after his daughter obviously is perished and he's now escaped, in the same kind of time frame or year, different time frame, but they do meet up at the end, was this amazing editor named Barbara Zimmerman, who worked at Doubleday, and she had found the diary in like a pass bin down at her office, and it was her journey to get that diary published as well. So the story of these two people's journeys to get this, what now is obviously arguably one of the most well-known diary books of our time, published. The way it works. So script was phenomenal. So I read this. You think to yourself, in an era where Transformers, DC, Marvel movies,
Sure.
how is that movie going to find its place in the marketplace? But I knew, not only was the writing superb, like this is a universal story of hope, of the will to succeed, the perseverance. Everybody knows the book. I felt like this definitely, especially what's going on in the world today, this would find its place. Might not be at a big studio, but it's going to find its place somewhere. So I tested it out there. And when I test things out in the marketplace, I'll give it to a few tastemakers that I love. If I get any wind of interest, and I'll be very honest with them up front and say, listen, this is the plan, just so you know, I'm very upfront about it. And once I caught interest from the few tasters and I gave it to, I knew I had something.
So you're slipping it to them. Do you slip it like a day in advance, a couple days in advance?
Depends. If I'm focused on maybe that tastemaker works for a director that's of high caliber that needs a window in my process that I give somebody to read.
The tastemakers, are these other agents?
No, these are producers, executives in town.
Yeah, like
Okay.
development sets.
Okay.
So listen, also in an era now where I think specs have gone from they go out one day, it takes like a few days. I've been thankfully blessed that still my specs go out, and I'll know within 24 to 40 hours
Yeah,
I'm going to sell
you know
it.
fast.
You know, I'll know pretty fast based on again my reputation of selling them and having. By Friday night, there was heads of studios all over us because
man.
the producers we had given to, we had allowed them to go to their certain territories, their studios, and we had heads of studios. And it went so fast that night that I didn't even have time. This happened to me numerous times, but this one really took a life of its own. I didn't even have time to get certain studios involved to bid because it was going so fast. And in hindsight, I probably should just given it to them, but it was moving at a light speed on Friday night. The script took a life of its own. These heads of studios. By Saturday morning, we started the offer started coming in, and by Saturday evening, we had 6 to 7 offers. They had offered up to where they were, and Fox Searchlight won the day, and it sold within 24 hours.
Now, I want to drill down on this a little bit if I can, because this is Evan's script, who is a friend of mine. The difference with this one is they weren't totally new writers. You had sold a spec of theirs last year too, wasn't it? Or
Actually,
was it 2
I
years
did not
ago?
sell that spec.
You didn't sell that spec. Who sold that spec?
Other agency that they had been at had sold it. They had unfortunately felt like the agency they were at.
Right.
They came, funny story. They came in, they met with me and two of my colleagues, and they didn't end up signing with me. Shame on them.
And they came back
shame on them.
Right.
So myself and my colleagues and I kept in contact with them over the course of a year. Allowed the other agency to do their thing. Wasn't trying to really make them uncomfortable or not happy. But unfortunately, the other agency just didn't do what I guess there was promised to them. They came to us. Cut to.
That's right.
We sold the spec.
So in their defense, one of them worked at that agency. So
one of them worked there too.
it was
Yeah.
sort of the right
Yeah,
thing.
it's defense or not, whatever. See, agent politics
is
again.
just the way
you can't escape it, you know?
Okay, because I was going to ask, how did that first one happen? Because that was also
How the first one?
It was also
the
a
first
historical
one,
drama.
Yeah, the first one went out. That first one, I know the story. The first one went
Okay.
out, and it went to a bunch of places, and it probably should have gotten a better reception than it did in the sense of selling to a bigger place. It sold to an amazing producer, Basil Wanek. It just didn't get the financial sell that they wanted
Right.
necessarily.
This one did.
So just sum it up. So that sells that night. One of them had just came to see me, and I don't think I'm outing him by telling the story. It's just, I think, a wonderful story about, why we do what we do. One of them had just come to see myself a couple days before that, maybe Wednesday, and had said basically, listen, I need to figure out what I'm doing here. We need to just get going financially for my family, for everything. There's a little bit of anxiety. There's a little bit of concern. And so when you hear those things, you kind of read through the lines, you know what's going on. And, you feel like you're sitting there man to man with somebody who has children, whatever. And you're like, you want to do what you can do. So that actually, because I was by no means, usually you go out with the spec before, there's a whole thing before Sundance theory, whatever, because Sundance is after Sundance is start kind of the kickoff of the new spec season, whenever it is. But hearing that, I just was like, man to man, I have a family of my own. I just felt a real, to then call him and tell him that we had accomplished this,
God,
right? And the money's life changing for sure. Was an amazing experience. But then to hear later on when he told his wife, and his wife was in tears, and he told his mom, and his mom validated for his mom that he could be a writer and he could have success doing that.
This is not his first script.
Not his first script. The other one again sold for
This one was significantly
Bigger than his first
This
script.
is high 6 figures.
yeah. This the first one was not even the same stratosphere.
Low 6, very low.
Not even that. So, not even the same stratosphere as that.
Yeah.
No, not life changing money
They
for
couldn't
where
leave their
you are.
jobs or anything.
No, right.
And again, it's not always about the money. It's just about up to that point. If I had felt burnt out or was having a tough time
That gets
or the last
you-
whatever,
that's what you're going,
that gets you revitalized again.
So how often, and I know this is a story that I hear all the time, when you sell a spec script, let's say they sell for $1 million or high 6 figures
Sure.
or whatever, how many get? I never understand that. So do you have any insight on that?
Yeah, I mean, it's just so hard to get these movies made these days with, original content just doesn't necessarily make it to the screen these days as much as we'd want it to be since the years, like years past. I would say out of 10, 1 or 2 will make it to the big screen, which is really, really
And the
sad
studios
and
will still
scary.
pay a big.
They're banks.
I mean, the transaction comes down to a numbers game. It's that or make the next
Batman.
Marvel or Batman,
Yeah,
whatever.
sure.
You go for the sure bet, right? Because
It's
how
a
many?
business.
Yeah, how many of the? It is a business. How many? I look at the list every year. These are acquisitions out of Sundance of all the movies they acquire Sundance, and then what they do at the box office. And you look and you go,
Not
you just
very good,
it's
actually.
head shaking.
Yeah, last
You go,
year was
"Good
yeah,
Lord."
yeah.
Yeah, and the year before wasn't very good. I mean,
Yeah.
it's just really head shaking. And so
There's
it's
good agents selling movies
No,
for a
I
lot of
mean-
money here.
yeah, you know?
That's what you do.
And
That's
it's
why
still-
it was so impressive to even see something like Avatar. That they
Avatar,
took
yeah.
such a huge risk
Yeah.
on a brand new property with nothing. And they spent, what, $400-500 million on that.
Yeah,
And
I mean, at that point, you're betting on a filmmaker and saying,
Oh, well, obviously.
either we'll go down with the ship on with him,
Literally,
or
'cause they almost did the last
did. You know
time.
what I mean? Yeah, exactly. You know what I mean? That's funny. Yeah. So,
They almost went down with
it's
the ship on the
like
last one, yeah.
you know,
they rolled it.
They rolled it,
They
but
rolled it hard.
but to be able to say from the guy who brought you Titanic brings you
And Terminator and
Avatar,
everything
yeah,
else, yeah.
of course, brings
Okay.
you. I mean, that's that right there, just
No, of
brand
course, of
itself,
course.
you know. So sadly, not as many as we'd like to see, but I still hold hope that studio and that there still is a want and need and a passion for.
Look at Deadpool.
Look at Deadpool.
I mean, look at that.
But man, it's still based on a Marvel
But it was a-
product, but
but
a
it was-
very obscure Marvel.
Right. And it was
you know.
done for, I think, 35 or 40 million
yeah,
bucks. It was
on,
really
on a
small.
very
And
and in
it's-
theory, a shoestring for them.
and
a
they
shoestring
changed
budget.
the genre.
Yeah, for
you
sure,
know, because they took a risk.
totally.
I want to switch it up a little bit. Two director or just a straight director? You know, what do you look for?
Well, director,
in
I
that?
mean, it's purely going to be about the vision of what you see, the product. For me, again, it's still similar to writing, is that when you see something that's very visionary, when you see a movie that you say that to me, there's a point of view, there's a vision in the way they deal with their shot selection, the actors, all of that. To me, that's what has to stand out these days. How do you break a director? It's either going to be from a film they've already done that gets, rave reviews in town. You kind of obviously have to get them in front of everybody you could possibly can that movie.
Does genre matter?
No, not at all.
Because
Not at
I mean,
all.
I've seen some great dramas. Like I always go back to Spider, which
Yeah.
was a really
That was a
good
really
film.
good. That was
Yeah.
Yeah, really good short film. You can find it on Vimeo, I think.
Yeah.
That's just the way that they directed the actors.
Yeah, not
right?
at all.
So-
I mean, no, genre doesn't matter. Genre matters only in short films, I believe. That's where genre does stand out. I mean, you look at a short film like we were involved with, like Lights Out, for example, right?
Yeah,
I mean, a
of course.
simple little
Super
short
simple, yeah. And
that
it blew up.
wasn't unbelievably a visionary, but it had a really great hook to it. That's now led David Sandberg to have a very illustrious.
film called Ruin.
right.
and then
Yeah,
he
Ruin,
Did,
but
Maze
yeah.
Runner.
Yeah,
but
yeah.
Tron,
Yeah.
the Tron guy too.
Yeah.
Well, but yeah, Wes Ball did Ruin.
Yeah.
But Wes Ball spent years, just
John
even
Hustle in
after
it.
hustle and trying to get things made and everything, and finally does Ruin, and Ruin led Maze Runner. But I mean, I think breaking a director is even that much harder because then you're asking studio to give a new, in theory, filmmaker X amount of millions of dollars to make a movie, and you're putting it in their hands. Extremely hard, but
They
together
have to
rip
do the good
reels.
job.
Have to put together rip reels. Have to put together.
What does that mean?
Their
I mean, does
lookbooks.
every director have to do this now?
I wouldn't say every director. I would say people.
Well,
that
not the well-known
but
ones,
new
but
ones.
newer directors.
I would say that most new directors that are breaking into the scene, unless they were pinpointed by the executives or by the studio or by the producers that this is the person they saw something they already seen something that told them that they understood the vision of the movie, would have to do a lookbook, something that shows.
So something-
and then, by the way, I tell all my directors to do any of that, no matter what, when they
New directors lately, especially the one that did
Because they're cheap.
Those are cheap. Well, the guy who did the Spider-Man.
John Watt, Cop Car,
And Webb.
Yeah, that's-
I forgot his first name. Webb, the guy who did the Spider-Man.
Spider-Man.
Webb. All the time.
But I started
literally
noticing
what
that in
the
the
business
olden
does.
days, that would never happen. Like
No.
in the
Because
80s or
if you-
90s, yeah.
This
now.
is what the system is set up to do. Is
because
find-
but if you
do
look
this.
at what Marvel wants to be known for is giving your characters depth and giving your characters
Right,
something that
right,
layered
yeah.
much more than just blowing up buildings and all of that.
Right.
And you look at what those movies that those kids people have broken out in those movies. So all those movies represent is just.
I mean,
yeah,
that's like
everybody wants
Colin
it.
Trevorrow. Everyone's
Yeah,
like,
I
you
was
get your
gonna say,
Sundance movie, and then what they'll do is they'll just surround you by excellent DPs, excellent other filmmakers that
and
are
just- Sure.
fantastic, and they won.
But,
They
yeah.
imploded.
So, what would be advice you would give someone just starting out as a screenwriter? Trying to break in.
Well,
Back to screenwriter.
so for a screenwriter, I mean, it's a simple saying, but great writers write, which is first and foremost. So if you're a screenwriter, continue to hone your kid that came out here and became an agent, right? I don't think I had the fortitude, I guess I didn't, maybe I did or didn't, to like put in a time and effort to be a director or do all that. But so I commend anybody that puts in the effort to be a writer and sit down and put pen to paper and all of that. I think it's an amazing job. And I think it's an amazing passion and unbelievable job, unbelievable creative outlet. Having said that, so many writers think they're writers and say they're writers, yet don't write, don't actually do the work, right?
They talk a lot.
They talk a lot and don't actually do it. So first thing first is to write. Secondly is just to get into the business and be in that, I hate to say bubble of Hollywood, but just be immersed and understand it. Enter contest. Read as much as you can about the world of screenwriting and your craft, and just understand and know your craft. Know what it's all about. Understand the business that we work in. I think it only makes you that much more, I would just say, ready when the success hopefully comes.
Now, is it a prerequisite to write your first script in a Starbucks in LA? Every time I go to Starbucks,
has to be.
All you see is laptops.
It's shifting now. You can do coffee bean or Pete.
That is when I first moved here, I was like, everyone's writing a script. It was just hilarious.
I don't know. See, so I was a writer. I don't think I could do that because I'd want
too much noise.
Too much noise. I'm way too easily distracted. Like it's just maybe it's like the Jewish thing in me. I don't know. I'm just like right away. I'm like, wait, what's going on over here? What's going on there? Like I'm like a dog in Up. You know what I mean? Right away. It's not, squirrel. You know what I mean? Like here I am.
Like that.
And then how about breaking a director? Like what
breaking a director is, I would say, just go out and shoot something. Shoot whatever you can. I think there's so many more opportunities now to have your. And I talked about this when I was talking to the kids from NYU, students from NYU, to have your stuff now uploaded on YouTube. I mean, formerly on camera. Invest in something, whatever it is, on an iPhone. I don't care what it is. To shoot something, do it, and just start to build. And again, hone your craft and build your resume.
Now, do you suggest features or
sure? I'm not saying max out all your credit cards and go severely in debt, but like if that's where your passion and love is, do what you.
Yeah, but you could break somebody on just a short.
Sure, absolutely.
If the short's good enough and strong enough,
absolutely. It's harder, but you can, of course. I think studios are a little bit more resistant to giving somebody a shot just off a short film, but it's done for sure. But just to get your start in directing, I always think film school is great. But most importantly, just go out and shoot. Do it. Just go out and do it. Again, I commend anybody that does it. Just go out and do it.
Cool. Any final questions?
Well, a couple. You mentioned contests. So like Nickel Fellowship, Austin, is there anything else that comes to mind? Do you actually pay attention to them?
Absolutely. I mean, obviously the film school ones, we pay attention to all of that. Samuel Goldwyn, we pay attention to that. I think anything in the Blacklist, I think Franklin Leonard's site is is very connected to the Hollywood scene and very in touch with the Hollywood scene. And we've had great success with the Blacklist site. But again, I mean, it's so there's not one way or right way. It's just continue to write and hone the craft.
And do most of your clients usually have a manager before they get to you, or does it matter?
Doesn't matter. I mean, I'd say now, I'd say a high percentage of my clients have managers. But it changes. Sometimes they come to me with no manager. Sometimes they come to do with a manager. And then it comes to a lawyer, so it's different every time.
And you work together with them as a team to help the client.
Yeah, the best thing that can happen to a client is that everybody is unified in the approach to the career, right? We're all in sync, whatever. If there's a crack in that system, then something's not working right.
And do you sit down and strategize
absolutely
like career paths, like you can get this script, then from here we're going to do this.
Absolutely.
And this, we're
I mean, I'm much more hands-on in the approach of agency than most. I'd say most agents are much more transactional and this is not knocking other agents. A lot of them are transactional. It's like just getting the job done and selling it on to the next. I get very immersed into notes process and making sure, again, that everything has my stamp of approval when it leaves the office. Because again, it's my taste and my integrity and respect out there. So,
and by the way, it's not the be all and end all for a script to actually sell. I mean, as long as the script is really good, even if
of course. But a great piece of writing, even if it doesn't sell, still a great piece of writing. It is. So it's doesn't always have to sell, and selling a spec isn't necessarily a high percentage these days. Again, I've had some good success, but the percentages aren't necessarily there.
It's not the 90s anymore.
No, the 90s are far gone. I'm trying to bring the 90s back. Let me tell you, I'm trying to bring them back.
But someone like Max Landis, who's been doing insane spec sales lately. I mean, he's kind of
also writes incredibly fast.
He writes ridiculous.
There's a lot of output.
He just completely puts out. But he's kind of like from what I've read, he's starting to bring back a little bit of the Shane Black days, when he showed Lethal Weapon and Long Kiss Goodnight.
Yeah,
and
he's
all that
done,
stuff.
done really well for himself.
He's-
I mean, let's see the.
But do you see a turn? Do you see studios starting to go down? Like, hey, let's pay big money. For
I can
this
only
spec.
speak for myself. I can't speak for Max or anybody else. I can speak for me and my clients. In that, right?
But you have.
Me
Oh, he has,
personally,
actually.
Right.
right? We're in the spec market,
Yeah.
It's all-
have seen a great success in that world.
Great.
I think that's it.
Very cool, man. Thank you so
All
much
right,
for
thank
doing
you
this,
guys.
man.
This was great.
Did you have fun?
Thank you. I had a lot of fun. Thank you for having me here.
Of course.
I'm now have to go out and brave the crazy blizzard that's going to be outside when we get
Yes,
out there.
yes.
But nothing like a little blizzard at Sundance. But thank you guys, and obviously continued success to everything you guys are doing too.
Thank you very much.
Thank you for being
you.
here.
Appreciate it.
Of course,
Thanks,
my
thanks
pleasure.
everyone for listening.
It was amazing talking to David. He was a wealth of information caliber and really getting inside information on what it's like to sell spec scripts, how it changes people's lives, his clients' lives, and also looking at it from an agent's perspective, not only from the screenwriter's perspective, and what they're looking for and what he's looking for and how he works with his clients and that whole mentality. So I was really excited to have him on Circus Road Films and Adam Bowman from Media Circus, who are our co-hosts and co-production on these special Sundance episodes. And if you want links to anything we talked about in this episode, just head over to indiefilmhustle.com/BPS. Matter what. Talk to you soon.
Thanks for listening to the Bulletproof Screenplay Podcast at bulletproofscreenplay.com. That's BULLETPROOFSCREENPLAY.com.